We all have those shows that glued us to the TV in our younger years. From 1983 to 1987, that show for many was The A-Team. The 1980s NBC show was jam-packed with nail-biting occurrences, blazing gun action, and intense chase scenes that thrilled audiences every week. While the show's popularity might have faded a bit, it remains a classic with a dedicated fan base. Sadly, some of the amazing actors who brought these characters to life have passed away. So who are those actors? Let's find out. Michael Basilian as Crazy Tommy T. Michael Basilian carved a path through Hollywood, appearing in both films and television. Early on, he tackled diverse roles, from the dramatic Uptight, alongside Raymond St. Jacques, to the classic Western A Man Called Horse, with Richard Harris. His career spanned several decades, with his last credited role coming on the action series Hard Knocks in 1984. This rewrite avoids repetitive phrases like "he also appeared in" and focuses on the variety of his work. It also highlights his smooth transition between film and TV. Basilian died at age 61 in 1986 after suffering a heart attack. John Matuszak as Davy Miller. John Matuszak, a former NFL player who later carved out a niche for himself in Hollywood, passed away tragically young at the age of 38 in 1989. Matuszak was a force to be reckoned with on the football field. A defensive lineman, he spent his career playing for teams like the Oakland Los Angeles Raiders and the Houston Oilers. He appeared in movies like Caveman and The Goonies, where he played the unforgettable Sloth. He even guest-starred on popular TV shows like MASH and Cheers. George Peppard played A-Team leader Hannibal Smith. By the time the A-Team came along, Peppard was already a seasoned Hollywood veteran. He'd starred in over 25 films, including the classic Breakfast at Tiffany's, and had experience on television with shows like Banachek and Doctor's Hospital. He was even a multi-talented hyphenate, having directed and produced some of his own projects. While known for being a demanding perfectionist, Peppard reportedly thrived on playing Colonel Hannibal Smith in The A-Team. The show, often described as a conservative and perhaps the last masculine one, as co-star Dirk Benedict put it, offered Peppard a chance to break away from his leading man persona. Despite his success, Peppard battled personal struggles with smoking and alcohol. Though he overcame lung cancer in the early 90s, he sadly passed away from pneumonia a few years later. Brion James, as David Plout. With his towering presence and menacing grin, Brion James carved a niche as Hollywood's go-to bad guy. He wasn't just a bully. His sharp gaze and distinctive smile added a layer of complexity to his villains. Director Walter Hill frequently cast James, including roles in Hard Times, The Driver, and 48 Hours. But it's his unforgettable turn as the murderous replicant Leon Kowalski in Blade Runner that cemented his place in pop culture. Beyond Blade Runner, James kept audiences entertained throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. James died in 1999 after suffering a heart attack at his home in Malibu, California. David Graff as Cooper. David Graff, best known for his role as the enthusiastic Sergeant Eugene Tackleberry in the Police Academy comedies, left his mark on both film and television. Graff's career began on the big screen with roles in movies like Four Friends and Irreconcilable Differences. But it was his portrayal of the bumbling yet lovable Tackleberry that brought him widespread recognition. He reprised the role in several sequels, showcasing his comedic talents. Sadly, David Graff passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack in 2001 at the age of 50. Noble Willingham as Pete Stockton. Solidly built, strong-featured character actor, prolific in film and TV, whose authority figures and blustery professional types often rely on his Texas-flavored image. Born in a small Texas town, Willingham worked in oil fields as a roustabout and steam fitter, and after college and graduate studies became a school teacher. A long-standing interest in acting led to a small role in the acclaimed TV movie My Sweet Charlie, And when Peter Bogdanovich brought his crew to Texas to work on The Last Picture Show, Willingham was one of the locals cast in a small part. Soon thereafter, he moved to Los Angeles to further his acting career. He died of natural cause in January 17, 2004, Dana Elcar as Judge Leonard Mordente. Dana Elcar was a highly respected character actor who worked extensively on television. In 1962, he landed his first steady gig on a medical drama and even played a cop on the spooky soap opera Dark Shadows. Elcar kept popping up on popular shows like Get Smart and westerns like Gunsmoke. Then in 1976, he joined the cast of a war drama called Black Sheep Squadron and even got behind the camera to direct some episodes. But his most famous role came in 1985 on the action-adventure show MacGyver. Elcar played MacGyver's boss, Pete Thornton, for the entire 7-season run of the show. On June 6, 2005, Elcar died at the Community Memorial Hospital in Ventura, California from pneumonia at age 77. By the time he passed away, he'd racked up over 150 acting credits. Robert Vaughn as General Hunt Stockwell. Paul Gleason wasn't the jerk everyone thought he was. Sure, he mastered playing the kind of bullies who make you want to roll your eyes, the ones with about as much humor as a brick wall. But off-screen, this guy was once a promising athlete who ended up honing his acting chops with the legendary Lee Strasberg in New York City. These unrepentant jackass roles, as some called them, became Gleason's trademark. He even poked fun at himself by playing another Principal Vernon in a goofy movie called Not Another Teen Movie. By the time he passed away in 2006, Gleason had racked up over 140 roles. Charles Napier as Army Cole Briggs. Filmmaker Russ Meyer said Charles Napier had a smile on one side and a scowl on the other. Maybe that's why he was such a great bad guy. He started out in some real shockers by Russ Meyer, but then went on to movies like Rambo and even the creepy classic Silence of the Lambs. Awards didn't matter much to Napier. He just loved acting, and fans loved watching him, from his early days on Star Trek to those outrageous B-movies where he totally stole the show. For over 40 years, he was a familiar face on screens big and small. When he passed away in 2011, movie fans everywhere mourned one of Hollywood's most dedicated character actors, Alan Fudge as Elliot Farnell. Alan Fudge wasn't always destined for the heartwarming world of Seventh Heaven. Believe it or not, this familiar face almost swapped the stage for a guitar. Back in the 60s, he sang with a folk group in Tucson, but acting won out, and after sharpening his skills at the University of Arizona, he landed on Broadway. Alan popped up in movies like The Natural and even played a role in the quirky Edward Scissorhands, from charming detective shows to teen dramas like Dawson's Creek. Alan Fudge was a reliable character actor who left his mark on both the big and small screen. Sadly, he passed away in 2011, but his TV legacy continues to bring comfort and joy to fans everywhere. Lance Legault as Colonel Decker. Lance Legault was a familiar face in movies for decades. He started out in the 60s with films like the comedy The Swinger, and even showed off his acting chops in a Shakespearean rock opera called Catch My Soul. Action movies were his thing later on, with roles in Iron Eagle and even the video game flick Mortal Kombat Annihilation. He kept acting well into his 70s, appearing in movies like Stuntmen and the indie darling Prince Avalanche. Lance passed away in 2012, but he left behind a filmography packed with characters that entertained audiences for years. Barry Ingham as Chuck LaCroix. This British actor started out on the London stage working with famous companies like the Royal Shakespeare Company. He even took his talents to Broadway, starring in musicals alongside Angela Lansbury. For many years, Ingham paid his dues with smaller roles in TV and movies, but later in life, he returned to the stage in a big way, starring in the Broadway musical Jekyll and Hyde. Barry Ingham passed away at his Florida home, leaving behind a career that spanned continents and genres. Ingham died at his home in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, aged 82. Geoffrey Lewis as Colonel Max Stoddard. With a face like a rugged mountain range, Geoffrey Lewis was a character actor who made a name for himself playing all sorts of gruff characters. Think grumpy cowboys, tight-lipped crooks, and the occasional flustered sidekick. Even in the 80s and 90s, Lewis kept popping up in big movies like Maverick and westerns on TV. Fun fact, he was actually the dad of actress Juliette Lewis. Geoffrey Lewis passed away in 2015 at the age of 79, leaving behind a legacy of bringing grumpy but interesting characters to life on screen. John Carter as fake Hannibal Smith. John Carter, an Arkansas native, started out his acting career on the small screen. The older brother of actor Conlon Carter, you might know him from the series Combat, John even landed his first role on that very show. In the decades that followed, John became a familiar face on TV westerns like Gunsmoke, and even took on historical roles like Stephen F. Austin. Sadly, he passed away in 2015 at the age of 87. While John may not be a household name, he was a dedicated actor who left his mark on television throughout his career. Clifton James as Sheriff Jake Dawson. It's uncommon that someone can say that he worked with more than one of the actors that portrayed James Bond in film, but Clifton James is one of the few who can make such a claim. Over the next few decades, he became a character actor chameleon, popping up everywhere from classic westerns like Gunsmoke to the prison drama Cool Hand Luke. Even though his acting career slowed down in the 2000s, he built a filmography packed with diverse characters that showed his range. Sadly, Clifton James passed away in 2017 at 96. Della Reese as Mrs. Baracus. Della Reese was a Detroit singer with a powerful voice. She started in gospel music as a teenager but later sang jazz and pop hits too. Songs like Don't You Know made her a star in the 50s and 60s. Della wasn't just a singer, though. She also became a successful actress, breaking ground on TV shows in the civil rights era. Her most famous role was as Tess on Touched by an Angel in the 90s. Della passed away in 2017, but her music and acting will continue to be enjoyed by fans. Marta Dubois as Bobby Cardina. Marta Dubois wasn't afraid to share the screen with the biggest names in TV. For over 30 years, she built a career out of holding her own with leading men like Tom Selleck and Andy Griffith. Marta started with guest spots on shows and TV movies, but soon landed a starring role in Tales of the Gold Monkey in the 80s. It was an adventure show, kind of like a TV version of Casablanca. Interestingly, though Marta was Panamanian, she played a Japanese princess, a character type Hollywood loved back then. Even though Gold Monkey only lasted one season, it opened doors for Marta. Throughout the 80s and 90s, she kept busy on shows like Magnum, P.I., where she played the long-lost love of the main character, and even The A-Team. She wasn't afraid of action. Later on, she joined the Hallmark Channel's McBride movie series, where she played a skilled LAPD detective. Sadly, Marta passed away in 2018 at the age of 65. Tim Rossovich as Boyle. Tim Rossovich wasn't your typical Hollywood leading man. This actor started out with roles in comedies like The Main Event alongside Barbra Streisand, but he could also bring the action. He landed parts in films like Avenging Angel and Stick, showing off his tough guy side. But Tim wasn't afraid to show his funny bone either, appearing in the sports comedy Johnny Be Good. Throughout his career, Tim balanced movie roles with appearances on TV shows like Perfect Strangers and even a special called The Fourth Man. Later on, he even popped up on Drexel's Class. Sadly, Tim passed away in 2018, Stuart Whitman as Chuck Easterland. Dark-haired and rugged with sensitive eyes, Stuart Whitman never became a superstar, but particularly in the late 1950s and through the 60s, was an action hero of motion pictures and TV, thriving in The Mark, for which he earned an Academy Award nomination as Best Actor, and in Cimarron Strip, one of the last of the successful TV westerns. Although reportedly worth more than $100 million thanks to investments, Whitman has continued to act, perhaps out of a genuine love of his craft, although the quality of his projects has varied. Whitman died on March 16, 2020, from skin cancer at his Montecito, California home. John Saxon as Calum Shore. John could throw a punch and glare with the best of them in films like Enter the Dragon and The Electric Horseman. But Saxon's career went way beyond that. He started out in the 1950s as a teen idol, all thanks to his dark good looks. But Saxon wasn't afraid to take on different roles. He played everything from Arab princes to Mexican bandits, even gangsters and cops. Even in his 70s, audiences loved seeing Saxon on screen. He was a character actor who could be a tough guy, a bad guy, or anything in between. Sadly, John Saxon passed away in 2020 at the age of 83. But his filmography, packed with diverse characters, is a testament to his talent and range. William Smith as Dmitri Shostakovich. William Smith wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Growing up during the tough times of the Depression, he started young, hustling for bit parts in movies. You might have seen him as a kid in classics like Meet Me in St. Louis or A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. He even snagged a role in the weird one, Gilda. The 70s were big on TV for Smith, with him appearing in shows like The Streets of San Francisco. But his real claim to fame came in 1976 with the miniseries Rich Man, Poor Man. He played the super-villainous Falconetti. That was his best role ever. Sadly, William Smith passed away in 2021 at the age of 88. Markie Post as Leslie Bechtold. You might remember Markie Post as the level-headed lawyer Christine Sullivan on Night Court. But her career went way beyond that. Her big break came in 1985 when she replaced another actress on Night Court. For 8 seasons, Markie brought wit and charm to the role of Christine Sullivan, becoming a sitcom favorite. Even after Night Court ended, Markie kept busy. She starred in shows like Hearts Afire and even dabbled in producing. She also wasn't afraid to take on serious roles, like her part in the TV movie Chasing the Dragon. Markie continued to act on TV well into her 60s. Sadly, she passed away in 2021 at the age of 70. William Lucking as Colonel Lynch. William Lucking took on everything from westerns to action flicks, even tumbling off an 80-foot bridge during filming for Harold and Maude. Talk about dedication. He started out on shows like Mission Impossible in the late 60s, but audiences might recognize him from his role as Piney Winston on Sons of Anarchy. But William wasn't just a biker dude. He also played Colonel Lynch on The A-Team, and even popped up in movies like Erin Brockovich and Red Dragon. His career spanned over 50 years, with appearances on shows like Star Trek Deep Space Nine and classics like The Magnificent Seven Ride. Sadly, William passed away in 2021 at the age of 80. Even though his body took a beating from all those stunts over the years, his filmography is a testament to his dedication to the craft. Dean Stockwell as Police Officer Collins. Signed by MGM at just 9 years old, Dean Stockwell stole hearts in movies like Anchors Aweigh with Frank Sinatra. But Dean wasn't just cute. He tackled serious roles too, like the son facing prejudice in Gentleman's Agreement. But Hollywood wasn't always easy for Dean. He walked away from acting twice, once to explore a hippie lifestyle, and again to become a real estate broker. The 80s marked a comeback for Dean. He embraced quirky characters in movies like David Lynch's Blue Velvet, and even scored an Oscar nomination for Married to the Mob. He kept busy with films like Air Force One and even lent his voice to cartoons. Television became a big part of Dean's later career. He starred alongside Scott Bakula in the time-traveling show Quantum Leap and appeared in miniseries based on Stephen King's works. Dean Stockwell passed away in 2021 at the age of 85. Jack Ging as General Harlan Bull Fulbright. Jack Ging was a familiar face on TV for decades, especially if you loved a good action show. He wasn't afraid to play the bad guy. Or, well, maybe a guy with a complicated moral compass. On The A-Team, Jack played a rogue cop, a shady Border Patrol officer, and eventually General Bull Fulbright, who was determined to track down the A-Team for his own reasons. Before his A-Team days, Jack was a busy actor. He appeared in shows like Perry Mason and Little House on the Prairie, and even shared the screen with Clint Eastwood in a few films. Jack was a former Marine and college football player, so he brought a tough guy energy to his roles, but he could also be surprisingly charming. He kept working well into his 80s, proving that a good character actor can leave a lasting impression. Sadly, Jack passed away in 2022 at the age of 90. But his filmography, packed with memorable characters, is a reminder of the kind of colorful actors who made classic TV so much fun. Sergio Calderón as El Cajo. After training in Mexico, Sergio Calderón landed his first role alongside legendary director John Huston in Bridge in the Jungle. Talk about starting with a bang. 13 years later, he reunited with Huston for another film, Under the Volcano. Calderón kept busy throughout his career, even guest starring on iconic shows like The A-Team. But principally, he is well respected and widely recognized for all of his long career of some 50 films. Calderón has worked with other outstanding directors besides Huston: Sergio Leone, Ron Howard, Luis Puenzo, R. Mann, and many others. Since beginning his career, he has worked with actors such as Anthony Quinn, Peter Falk and Alan Arkin, Robert Mitchum, James Coburn and Rod Steiger, Gerard Depardieu and Pierre Richard and Gregory Peck, Jane Fonda and Jimmy Smits. Sadly, Sergio passed away in Los Angeles in 2023 at the age of 77. But his filmography, filled with roles alongside Hollywood heavyweights, is a testament to his talent and dedication to the craft. David McCallum as Ivan Tregorin, a thoughtful, intense presence on television in America and his native United Kingdom, David McCallum was a pop culture sensation in the mid-1960s as the suave spy Ilya Kuryakin on The Man from UNCLE, and later as the avuncular Donald Ducky Mallard on NCIS Naval Criminal Service Investigation. The Scottish-born McCallum worked his way up the ranks in British film and television before bursting onto the American scene with UNCLE. His cool charm and blonde good looks made him an immediate TV idol, but failed to translate into stardom after the show left the air. McCallum settled into a steady diet of TV appearances on both sides of the Atlantic, frequently essaying mellowed professorial types or pensive government figures, before scoring his late-innings smash with NCIS. The rare performer with 2 major hits to his credit, McCallum's image and talent ensured his fame for generations of TV fans. McCallum died at the New York Presbyterian Hospital in New York City on 25th of September 2023, 6 days after his 90th birthday. So that's it, everyone. Gone but not forgotten. These team left a mark. Share your favorite memories in the comments. See you next time.